On May 4th, 1970, shots fired down on Kent State University students. The boys and girls were protesting against Nixon's continuation of the Vietnam War, and conflict starts in gunshots. The massacre changed public views and led to the end of the war, but ended 4 kids' lives in the process. The U.S. has been bombing Cambodia in the Vietnam War and calling a draft. Conflict erupts in a protest at Kent, Ohio, where guardsmen have shot and killed 4 students from Kent State University under President Richard Nixon's orders. This is known as the Kent State Massacre. In June 1969, President Nixon announces that he is withdrawing around 150,000 troops to the Vietnam War, thus relying on South Korea's troops to fight. He is also ending the college deferments, meaning kids could now be exempt from college education and drafted into the military. Students at Kent State University were also mad because the U.S. was bombing Cambodia and there would be too many casualties to come from it. Conflict begins in small skirmishes among peace activists and groups, but quickly escalates into the Kent State Massacre, where armed guards shot on college students in Kent, Ohio, ultimately killing 4 students and wounding several. The guardsmen felt as if they were being threatened by the students' loud shouts and throwing tear gas at them, although most believe the guardsmen should not have openly fired on the unarmed students, especially considering they killed 4. Allison Krauss, Flowers Before Bullets, Jeffrey Miller, A Friend to All, Sandra Schurer, The Next Scholar, and William Knox, A Great Brother. 2 of the 4 participated in the protests, and the other 2 were in between classes. They were all shot by guardsmen. Four students at Kent State University were shot and killed by the Ohio National Guardsmen during the massacre. Krauss was an honor student at Kent State University and was protesting when a bullet entered her arm and went through her chest. She died from injuries the next day. She was 19 when she died, and her family said she always had a smile on her face every day. Miller was protesting the Cambodia bombing at Kent State University when a bullet entered his heart from 345 feet away. Miller laid there dead while his friend Mary grieved for him, kneeling right next to Miller and his dead body. Schurer was a scholar at Kent State University and was passing between one of her classes when she was shot down by the Ohio National Guard and shortly died after. If Schurer was not shot down on that day, she would have done big things coming from Kent State University. Schroeder was a boy from Kent State University, and it wasn't too long before a bullet hit Schroeder and his life ended. Schroeder's life ended too early, and he was a great brother that should not have left the earth. During the Kent State Massacre, the officers were the ones that shot the kids and caused lots of controversy within Kent, Ohio. Even though they shot the students, the men really to blame were the top men, such as commanders and officers, that were giving the men word to fire down on hundreds of Kent State students. Most of the guardsmen did not even want to shoot the students and were doing it out of inferiority. This was the controversy of a nation deeply divided by the Vietnam War. Nixon was in the Oval Office as president during the Vietnam War and the Kent State Massacre. Nixon believed that during unjust violence, people must come together, but he contradicted himself because he sent the armed guardsmen to Kent, Ohio, to shoot down on the students, ultimately killing 4. Nixon didn't realize that his plans have consequences, and those consequences led him out of the office and changed the course of a state. After over 100 armed guardsmen shot down on the students, killing 4 and injuring many, on May 4th, the course of Kent, Ohio changed. After May 4th, Kent State University closed immediately and did not reopen for 6 weeks until the summer session. The injured and dead students' families filed a civil suit in which the Ohio National Guardsmen paid the families a combined total of $675,000. In the office, President Nixon, who enforced the shootings, was withdrawing U.S. officers from the Vietnam War if they wanted their college education back or were drafted against their will. Nixon served from 1969 to 1974, but his time came to an end along with the Paris Peace Accords. This was a treaty that ended U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War, and with that, the protests came to head. Even though the protests lasted for only a day, its legend still lives on in U.S. society and culture. The legacy of the Kent State Massacre did not die on May 4th. It lived on through various photos, literary works, and events. John Philo photographed an image of one of the dead students on the ground during the massacre, and the photo won the Pulitzer Prize shortly after it was published. The Kent State Massacre is a symbol of how people have very different opinions on war, and specifics the Vietnam War. Most believed it changed the political spectrum of America regarding what protests accomplish and struck a fear into people of what can happen from them. This massacre was the tipping point in a nation deeply divided by war.